So it's Saturday, and usually by now I've looked at everything and have everything posted. I had read the material and whatnot, but just did not have access to my computer because I've been at training all week for the past 2 weeks, from Monday through Friday. I got to go home one time this past week. But anyway, not related to anything with this, but there was a lot of good information and good material that I read this week regarding um, the violence that police suffer, um, preventing crime as it relates to police officers. And then I went a little further and did some research, and I'll post the link to that article of police misconduct that affects and contributes to some of the perceptions that people have of police. Because I wanted to see, well, what is it? There was a comment made that I'll get to later, um, about how people are going against the police or villainizing the police, and it's being televised and broadcasted now, and it's shifted from just this, rumble in the community to this nationwide target, or as the article described it, a war on cops. Is there a war on cops? The research says a lot on both sides, and that was one of the main things as I was reading it. I wrote down, I said, is there a war on cops? And then as I kept reading the article, that was the number one thing, or one of the things that it said on there, was that they're trying to figure out whether or not there is actually, or if research supports there being a war on drugs. So to start off, my personal stance on police and my perception of police has always been pretty positive, because I've never had the experiences of um, negative interactions with police. I can think of one interaction I had that was negative, and it was because of my reaction to the situation. It was an unmarked police car. I was driving behind this car, and this car would not move, going 20 miles an hour. I got mad, and I shot past that cop going, I know, at least 80. And I was like, it would be something if that was a police car. Boom, blue lights, police car. He stops. He said, did you not know this is a police car? And that's where the negative interaction started, because of just our first impressions of each other. But I did not know that there was this much research on police and how they're targeted in some crimes, and how they are, whether or not there is an increase or an influx of violence towards police. I'm looking for the right word, not necessarily violence, but there is a huge risk to their safety, just like there is with any job. Working in law enforcement, I see every day that you can encounter people who might just be having a bad day, and one small trigger takes off, and then it goes from something small and it grows to something totally bigger. So to start off with with the article talking about the crime in an officer's work environment, maybe an indicator of the risk factor, or the risk to their safety. So just starting off there, um, if your environment, you're going into the neighborhood that's more affluent and people are following the laws, they're compliant, there's not a lot of negative crime activity, you probably have a very, I wouldn't say easy, but the risks that you encounter there are probably less dangerous than it would be if you were in a housing project where there is a negative perception of police already out the gate, that they're having to deal with. And then they was saying that there was some information as far as whether or not gun ownership rates, and if that affects the violence against police. Well, if you think about it this way, if you have a community that has people who have guns, maybe not legally, they have access to guns, children, adults, that have this access to guns, and you have a police officer who, in their eyes, is the social. I'll start with this: the social contract has been broken. If I'm expecting somebody to protect me or protect the community, and all I'm getting is we're getting targets on our back from drugs and all these other things, getting caught, although some of these things are illegal, if I see that it's one of those love-hate relationships, if you're helping and I'm in a situation where there's a lot going on and I need assistance and the police show up, thank you so much. But if you're, excuse me, if you're causing if you're a risk to what I'm trying to do, no, that there may be more violence because I'll be more prone to react when I feel like you are attacking me or you're, you know, there's a problem between your relationship and this community. Um, Certain type of calls generate an elevated risk of victimization of police. That was one of the major things that stuck out to me. That yeah, if you have domestic violence situations that they're going in and you're trying to resolve the situation, it's already heated, it's already up there. Of course, you're probably going to be more at risk because there's already anger and he can't control his anger on people that live in the house with him. You've got somebody coming in and now they're posing a risk to you and trying to stop you. That's very, very risky. I did not know there was a fraternal order of the police. And that's the comment I was saying that was written to President Obama, where he mentioned that hatred for police has increased and that the media was helping that increase. And so now, where you had small communities, negative perception of the police is being televised. And I think that a lot of the events that are happening, especially around the world now, my perspective is a little different because I'm living with one of those protective classes that is being targeted in a sense, in my perspective, my opinion. Out of the 9 protective classes, yes, there are issues with, you know, age. Sometimes there might be a job that's not offered to an older person that's over 40, or you may have somebody whose political affiliation, that's an issue, especially right now in the climate now with the election and everything going on. But you have this specific race or this specific group that seems to have a lot of negative attention, and the media is showing it now. It's being televised at a wider rate across the world, and there are negative views. And if you're kind of swayed one way or another and you're seeing these people and the media attention is going towards one perspective of violence towards police, that might affect the way I think down the road. And I'm like, okay, let's see what they're talking about, because everything is not being covered. So there was some validity in his statement. But I do think that when you have events that happen, such as with the Breonna Taylor case, and the police, the person's charged, or the persons involved are not charged, that life did not, in my opinion, get the justice because nobody's being held responsible for it, other than there were some bullets that went into spaces that were not occupied by even the room they were in or the people that lived in that specific apartment. The one thing I did see that about the dangerousness of the job has decreased somewhat, and I think that has to deal with whatever's going on in that specific society. Because yes, you do have an increase in violence, but this research is showing that there's a decrease in the amount of police deaths because now there's different technology, there are different tactics that they can use, there are improvements in their protection, their personal protection equipment that they're using. Now it's not necessarily you can go out and people are crazy. I'm not going to say they're not. But you can go out into the community and have technology that they didn't have in the 90s. They didn't have in the 70s and 80s. What else was I going to point out? Because I don't want to go too long, especially with the fact that it's pretty late in the week. Line of duty deaths. That was one thing that I kind of paid attention to, as far as you never really know what you're going to encounter as you're going out. And if it's an influx in violent crimes, I would be scared. And moving into the surveillance of it, so now you do have these security. So people see, okay, they ain't got a camera here. That helps their job some, because if I see that, okay, there's surveillance around here, I'll be less likely to be open and doing something that's illegal or criminal. But it somewhat paints a negative image, because if you think back to um, the issue that happened a few months ago, where there was the camera in the construction site of this home, and the negative attention that gets, because it is illegal, but he wasn't the only one that was doing it. But it's you're trespassing or whatnot. These type things target certain groups, and some groups have been the burden, and especially according to the research, have been the burden of the negative exposure that comes in those situations. It does prevent some crime, but it doesn't solve the problem. Like I mentioned, there was an article about the police perception. Negative perception from some of these groups has been going on for a long time, and it's hard to reverse it. And the policies, let's talk about policies. So you do have policies that hold certain things, certain people responsible. But when you have policies that a judge has absolute immunity, and if there's something that they feel is their courtroom, they can act on it. They can um, pretty much dictate what happens. It's in their courtroom. The police have policies that protect them and say, well, this is within their right because they're protecting the safety of the community. How do we fix these things? There is no easy solution. There is no easy answer. The research couldn't even answer how this changes. There's no specific, if you do this, this is going to solve the violence against police by having more police officers out at a time, or punishing people. Punishment is not going to fix the problems and the interactions between two groups that have a negative idea of each other as it is. So I think there was a lot of, like I said, good information in these articles. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I do believe that's all. So with that being said, I look forward to going over everybody's, well, not everybody's, but looking at some of these. And I hope that everybody's had a great week. This next week, I will be on it. Y'all will see mine early, because I'll actually be leaving again on tomorrow night or Monday morning. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. And then I'll be gone from home, not staying in my house until this next weekend. So everybody have a great night. And I look forward to interacting with everybody. All right, bye.